Leeds United are set for a massive fixture tonight against Swansea City away from home in the EFL Championship. It could be a landmine of a match that could cause big issues for Leeds United, so I'm going to go through team news, how Swansea will play, how we'll play, and ultimately my predictions for the game. But first, subscribe, be massively appreciated. I'm on the route to 2,000 subscribers at the moment and I would love you along for the journey. So, diving into it, team news. We've got to start with Dan James's return because it's a pretty big one. He's had some fairly major fitness issues recently. For some reason, I can't talk this morning. This is my 4th attempt at recording this, but I'll keep on going. The fact that we've got him back in the squad, however, is pretty big. I don't expect to see him in the first team just yet, unless there's an issue with Nonto or Anthony in terms of actual fitness, just because it's a little bit too much of a risk to say, you've just come back, would you like to immediately play for us? That would be a bad idea. I think the Swansea fixture is perfect to have Dan James back, purely because it's his former club. He might want to go back and get a little bit of vindication about the fact that they tried to sell him 3 separate occasions. Yeah, I think it's just ultimately a good game to have him back, and I will get into a little bit more on why all of the rest of the players might like playing Swansea as well. Players that we're missing, however. Sam Byram is out. He's got a little bit of a hamstring niggle going on, which is never ideal, and you don't want to make things worse by forcing him to play through an injury. And if we've got a little bit of depth to cover that, that's completely fine anyway. It makes it more likely that Connor Roberts is going to get an appearance off the bench. In addition to that, Jamie Shackleton is out. At the time, I wrote that this was because of personal issues, because I wrote this right after the press conference. We've now discovered that he's had his first child. Congratulations, Jamie Shackleton. But that means that he will not be in Wales. He will be being a dad, and I don't think anyone can have any real complaints about that one. So, my predicted lineup for the Leeds United versus Swansea City match is basically what you'd expect. Illan Meslier will start in goal. Fairly normal idea. I don't mind that in the slightest because he's good. Back line, I've gone for a slight change here. I'm going to say start Connor Roberts. Ampadu, Rodon and Firpo also in the back line. Ampadu keeping his position because Pascal Struijk is reportedly still injured and more injured than we expected, which is okay whilst we've got players that are there to cover. Could be an issue long term though. I've put Roberts in at right back for his first start because in midfield I'm going Gray and Groif. Gray I just like seeing lots of. I want to see a little bit more of him in midfield and I think it would be good for him to start there. I think if Glenn Kamara does start, Connor Roberts won't. Gray will slip back into that fullback role because Archie Gray is, in Farke's eyes, undroppable, and in mine at the moment as well. Having Groif in there is also fantastic because he is one of the best midfielders in this division. The attacking line, I've gone unchanged. Somerville, Rutter and Nonto behind Patrick Bamford. I think that all just works. That feels very common sense to me. It's a lineup that we have proven is well balanced. Moving Gray forwards doesn't affect that balance because he's a similar type of midfielder to Kamara, and it gives us an opportunity to get a little bit more of an eye on what Connor Roberts does. In terms of why Swansea is a good match for it, it's because it's a massive homecoming for so many of our players. There are a swathe of Swansea players going back. Connor Roberts, as we've mentioned, Joel Piroe we signed from Swansea just in the summer, and he seemed to relish the opportunity to score against them, which is fantastic. Joe Rodon is going back there after years of being out at Spurs and thrown about on loan, so it's his chance to sort of prove what he's become. And Dan James, returning from fitness issues, was initially going to be bought by Leeds from Swansea. There was a big old kerfuffle around that, and I can see why he might be a little bit annoyed at Swansea for sort of stalling his career a little bit. It's the perfect chance for every single one of these players to prove a point and say, look, I might have used to have played for you, but now I'm in a better place. And beating Swansea here would be fantastic for every single one of those players. The first match this season, Leeds versus Swansea, was a resounding win for Leeds United. Possession was fairly in the balance, but we were incredibly dominant. It was a 3-1 victory, and Swansea scored their only significant chance. They had an XG of 0.3, despite having a lot of opportunities, which meant that they were just firing off shots from a distance after they took that lead. There were 28 shots in that match, so it was very exciting, and I think we can expect similar in this one. But what we can expect from Swansea today is, I feel, a little bit different from that. They currently have the 3rd worst defence in the league, with 49.6 goals against expected, which is shocking. Really bad. We've got, I think, 20-something, maybe 30-ish. The fact that they've just managed to sneak in under 50 is they are expected to concede about 2 goals every single match, which is really bad for them. And it's good for us, and they are in very poor form as well. They've only won once in their last 6, which sort of shocking. And thankfully they line up in a way that matches us. A nice 4-2-3-1. I think recently we've struggled dealing with those 5 at the back sides because in terms of numerical advantages, we don't have one. When it's 4-2-3-1, we're pinning back their fullbacks, and then Bamford is dealing with the 2 centre-backs, and that gives Rotero a little bit of space. If they do decide to press Rotero a little bit more, then the midfielders can push on and cause a lot more problems. A 4-2-3-1 is something that we can very easily get at. They also have 6 injuries in their squad, many of them to major players, and tend to play in their own half, so you can expect to see Leeds have a lot of the ball here. It's going to be hard to do that transitional stuff. We might have to do what we did against Rotherham and sort of play a little bit long bally to force a transition and get them out of their shape. They're a fairly passive side against aggressive opposition as well, which means that we'll have a lot of the ball, a lot of the chances, and they will try and hit us on the counter. If it becomes that counter game, we need to be careful because although we do have a solid back line, we have a tendency to let chances through if we're not careful. So what do Leeds United need to do? First up, I think Leeds United really need to target Kyle Norton. He's expected to play at right back for them, and that means that he is perfectly in Crescencio Somerville's crosshairs, which is not where you want to be as a 35-year-old man. Fairly old. I think we make it tricky for him. He's not as fast as he used to be, which means that Somerville is able to fairly simply get around the outside if he wants to use his pace, cut inside if he wants to use his feet, and that tends to be an issue throughout their backline. They're not good against skillful players, they're not good against fast players, which means that on the right, Nonto's going to have a good time, on the left, Somerville's going to have a good time, and Ruter will create chance after chance after chance, and we will cause them a lot of problems. We need to use our width as well, and create very complex passing patterns, because it's what we're good at. And the more that we use what we are good at, the better a chance we're going to have of securing this match as soon as we can. And for God's sake, let's finish our chances. We'll get lots of them. We know that. But if we can go into half-time 2 up for once, then we can be a little bit more relaxed. We can do a little bit more rotation. We can maybe bring Dan James off the bench so we can get a few minutes in. That'd be very nice. I would appreciate that very much. Thank you, Leeds. So my predictions for the match, I think it will be tighter than it should be because I don't know if we will get that finishing right. I think at some point we'll see all 4 of the former Swansea men because it makes sense to me. It's a good game to get those players amped up. Roberts and James potentially coming off the bench if they don't start. Rodon, we're going to see on there anyway, and I've completely forgotten who the 4th one is. Piroe, also likely, I think, to come on off the bench if we are leading towards the end of the match. Ultimately, I think the Whites will win 2-0. I don't think they create enough chances for us to really concede a goal in this one. I think we'll be okay, but I don't think we'll be clinical enough to get more than 2, which means I think we'll keep it a little bit antsy towards the end of the match. But ultimately, I want to know what you guys think. Let me know what you think will happen in the comments down below. Like the video if you've enjoyed it at any point, and subscribe, as I mentioned earlier. That would be massively appreciated. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you later. And I think the word of the day should be swans. That's fun enough, I think. Swans. Cheers.